En ce moment, le Musée royal de l'Ontario présente une exposition qui s'appelle TUSARNITUT, Music Born of the Cold, ou sinon la musique qui vient du froid en français. C'est une expo qui à l'origine était présentée au Musée des Beaux-Arts de Montréal et qui s'est déplacée pour venir ici en Ontario. C'est vraiment une exploration de la musique à travers, oui, les arts, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a des représentations artistiques de la musique inuit, mais il y a aussi de la musique qu'on peut entendre. On comprend l'importance culturelle de cette musique dans cette communauté-là. Et j'ai décidé d'en parler avec Justin Jennings, c'est l'un des commissaires du musée. Bonjour Justin.
Bonjour Alison.
Merci de nous recevoir ici, l'expo Music Born of the Cold. Ce que je trouve vraiment génial, c'est que c'est à la fois artistique, on voit des représentations artistiques de musique, mais on apprend aussi beaucoup de choses sur la culture inuit, sur l'importance de la musique dans cette culture. Et je me demande si le fait d'avoir un peu les deux, c'était quelque chose d'intentionnel.
Well, yeah, I think certainly. When you think of the Inuit, think of the North. I mean, it's all about music, but that music is just part of everyday life, right? Everyone knows how to play an instrument. You know, people sing. Being Inuit is to be able, for many of the women, for example, to throat sing. So much of the back and forth. You remember, oftentimes there's days and days in the wintertime, you barely see the sun, right? Is that you spend a lot of time inside, a lot of time together. That's reflection in a lot of the art, but then you also see that music and dance are a big part of that. So you can't really do an Inuit show without talking about music and dance and culture. So the best way to do it is to put them all together and show how they work together.
Et la musique, c'est plus que juste du divertissement. C'est vraiment quelque chose qui a plusieurs fonctions au sein des sociétés de la culture inuit.
Oh yeah, certainly in many different ways. So a lot of times, yes, I mean it is fun. You have competitions, you're playing back and forth. So we might be sitting here just like this, having a throat singing battle. And then we often devolve in laughter, right? So the end of that is always people are having fun. But you're certainly right. So for example, the drum dancing is oftentimes the traditions are from the shaman that's trying to make sure that the universe is in proper order, that everything is in balance. Sometimes we'll take on, for example, a walrus or take on the form of a loon in order to make sure that everything is working, that indeed we can get this food, that the sun will shine, right? So a lot of it is that music and dance is doing work for the community. So yeah, I don't want to put away, it's not fun, people aren't having a good time, often they are, but yeah, oftentimes a lot of that is very serious work to make sure life goes on.
On peut lire beaucoup de choses dans cette expo sur la musique, justement. Je suis le genre de personne qui aime beaucoup lire. Et je me demande à quel point c'est important pour comprendre ce qui se passe autour de nous dans cette expo.
Well, we talked about earlier about culture being important. We talk about the music and dance. And so you have to understand, you can hear the throat singing, but what are they talking about? Mm-hmm. Why throat sing? You can just look at the drum dancing, okay? How is the drum made? What does the drum symbolize? What are the drummers doing, right? So to me, you can't really appreciate that music until you get that context, understanding. And of course, you're never really going to be able to do that unless you go out. I encourage everyone to go out to the North and experience it. Mm-hmm. But this gives you some sense, right? Because oftentimes what happens in exhibits is that you put an object behind glass, right? You put that music up on stage, and you take it out of how it was originally sort of understood. Mm-hmm. So we try to do a little bit in the show is put it back in that context. You understand a little bit of how that music, the dance, and the culture all come together as one.
Et pourquoi c'est important pour les Torontois, pour les Ontariens, de comprendre toute cette dimension-là qui vient avec la musique dans la culture inuit aujourd'hui?
Well, I think it's so important to understand Inuit culture. As more and more people, of course, are going to the North, and many people from the North are coming down into Toronto, is that to understand those different cultures, to understand how to live and work together, and also, of course, to learn from other people. And beyond that, it's Inuit music is spectacular, right? The throat singing is amazing. What we're seeing a lot, and you come to the exhibit, what's nice is you see the traditions of throat singing and drumming. You'll see what it was like, say, in 1900 but also what it's like today, which is quite different. You'll see opera being mixed with some of the Inuit traditions.
Justement, il y a toute cette partie musique contemporaine à la fin de l'exposition et je me suis dit, est-ce que c'est parce qu'elle a toujours existé comme ça ou est-ce qu'il y a un nouvel engouement aujourd'hui?
We have examples there. So, for example, the first whalers that were coming from Europe, they'd bring their fiddles, right? And fiddles are brought into Inuit music. And you see people starting to make fiddles out of boxes. We have some of the very early examples here. Then you have the guitar, the drums, etc. So people are always innovating, right? So what we try to do in this exhibit is show you, where Inuit music comes from, some of the power, the throat singing, why it's done, what's happening. But then also show, hey, look, this is how it's changing, this is how it's growing, this is how it's reshaping world music, right? And so it's an exciting exhibit that tries to do both, right? Because for any music, you got to understand where it's from in order to understand where it's going, but you also have to respect all those changes that are happening as people explore and innovate.
Merci beaucoup, Justin.
Merci.